I am going to take my time with this one. I did a video not too long ago, the Comichron, the website that we've looked at, we have utilized as a resource as well to look at unit sales and what is the ranking of certain books and all of that. And as they do every year, they came out with this report, and the report said that they had made more money. Comics made more money than what they had ever, just period, including and accounting for inflation. And what we did in that previous video is that we looked at what the data actually said and what it didn't say, because there are a lot of wrongful assumptions that are being made by some very disingenuous people. Some people, a lot of comic pros actually have taken it to mean, hey, look, comics are in a great position. They're not stagnant at all. They're not declining at all. They're thriving. Everything's going well. And they took that report to say basically it's doing better than what it ever had. And because there are folks that look at folks like myself as ideological enemies, they think that this report just takes it to us. OK, it's like, hey, you guys have been perpetuating this myth that comics are declining or comics are not in a good shape or something like that. And you're a bad person because of it. You're a grifter, blah, 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 all these buzz terms it is that they like to use for people like me. And they thought that the report took it to us. And I had weirdos even quote tweeting that video that I put in, well, it was the promotional item that we put on Twitter to send people to the video, saying that, he's coping. He's coping with this. Like, ha, 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 comics are doing great. This was one of them as well. And this guy here said or sent multiple things to me about this. And for example, he asked me, he says, comics v manga, and arbitrary distinction and moved goalposts. Sad stuff, dude. Just take the L on comics are dying narrative you spun for years. And that, I think it really just, it's been a little dishonest, because that's not merely my argument, right? Or me talking about what I talk about. However, in analyzing the data, that has nothing to do with my opinion. That has nothing to do with how I feel about manga. That has nothing to do with even how I feel about comics. This is data that you cannot argue, okay? So what we are going to do, because there's a lot of not just straw manning, but people being disingenuous, people being in complete denial. And I'm going to show you why this is, and I'm going to break it down, I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to show you exactly why you can't just look at that report at face value and then say that it's thriving. Now, to that moron's tweet, like right here, yes, there is a distinction to be made between manga and comics. It's not arbitrary. It is an actual thing. These are coming from the Japanese. They're coming from different, it's different form of storytelling. How they package their stories is completely different. It's a Japanese comic, yes, but you cannot say that, let's say, it represents North American like comics that's being disingenuous. There is a distinction certainly to be made, and to take credit, let's say, for their success, especially when people use it as a comparison, is being dishonest. How I feel about manga is irrelevant to that. But this all, to set the scene, this all started with this. And you can see that the post here, this is the original Comichron post. And it talks about last year, 2021, Comichron ICV2. The report is out, and they say that graphic novel sales rose 62%, 70% versus 2019. Comic and graphic novels, says all formats grew. The industry's biggest year in dollar terms, even adjusted for inflation, read the report. So folks looked at that and said, well, if you look at this data, you see this chart, it's just doing so well. And you guys that act like it's doing badly or poorly, you're being dishonest. Okay, so we're going to go through this. I'm going to take my time. I don't care. If you need to speed stuff up, by all means do that. But I am going to take my time with this. But this is the actual report that you can see. There's a couple of things that I want you to take into consideration when considering this. And this right here. I love that they had this chart, and you saw me refer to it. 2016 to 2021, they have the report, they have the numbers. You could see that graphic novels started rising to a point to where it almost doubled from what it was in 2020, which is the pandemic year, of course. So you can even consider this as a wash. Even from 2019 to here is insane with the graphic novels, that is. But I believe the actual number is only like 20 million or so. There's only 20 million more dollars accounted for in the comic books. So again, there's a couple of things that we need to take into consideration. Main thing being, where are they getting this data? This is a joint effort. You have the ICV2 and you also have Comichron, okay? This is their numbers for their data. I am going to use their numbers and their data to show you exactly what it is that I have been talking about. But moving on here, you need to understand this is perhaps the most important part of this video. It is not including unit sales, okay? And they even address that. Why don't you report units as well as dollars? One goal of the report is examining much money exists in publishing part of the medium, as opposed to licensing or the aftermarket, which adds more. But another reason is the underlying units vary widely in price. We're going to come back to that here in a little bit. The report includes everything from $1 sampler edition comics to $175 hardcovers. So unit level analysis are better done with specific categories, such as our direct markets reports, which separate comics from graphic novels. So this right here is not talking about units sold. It's not talking about books merely sold in number, an individual book being sold, let's say, to, of course, the comic book stores. I'm not even going to go there with the gimmick of the variant coverage and all that and how they boost numbers. I don't even have to use that, though I probably should. I'm not going to go there. But keep that in mind. This report has nothing to do with units. It's just talking about how much sales, basically revenue, it is that they accumulated in reference to the actual comic book stores and what was sold to them. Okay? So continuing on here. Again, I got my notes here because I'm for sure going to go through everything. So to compare right here, you have, this is the 2020, if I'm not mistaken. This is the year sales numbers in 2021. And you can see here are the units right here. We're going to get into that in a minute. There's almost one thing that I almost forgot about, perhaps the most important part. Graphic novels almost exclusively, or rather manga is almost exclusively considered graphic novels. It says it right here. Our reminder, while some manga used to get reformatted in comic magazines for the U.S. market, modern manga almost exclusively almost exclusively books with spines. Hence, manga are classed as graphic novels, not comic books. Now, of course, they say that novels were up to 2021. Again, the question you always have to ask is compared to what? Okay, so mangas almost exclusively are classed as graphic novels. Okay. Now, the reason why I want to look at this, I want you to take a look at this. 2020, this is a 2021, if I'm not mistaken. These are 2021 numbers right here. And you see the sales, the estimated units. The number one sold estimated unit in estimated units, in terms of estimated units, is King Spawn. This is not revenue. This is King Spawn, okay, by Image. You have some other ones. You got Venom, of course, is up there, and some other ones that are there. And King Spawn sold 480,000. To put that in perspective, we don't have the actual unit numbers for a lot of these mangas yet of 2021. They are even saying that they're still trying to kind of compile that data. But in comparison, the top five, and of course this is more internationally, these are from estimates from Japan's top collecting agency. So this is basically the Comic-Con, similar to in Japan. They sold of Jujutsu Kaisen almost 30 million copies. Number 5 on that list is My Hero Academia, and that's 7 million copies. Now, of course, that's international. We're not just talking about a North American sales. So some of those you got to kind of give and take. But I'm just showing you that for a reference point. Continuing on, and this is what you must consider, is that some folks are going to try to spin that. They say we're spinning. They're going to attempt to spin this and say, well, this is showing that maybe, okay, the graphic novels are up, right? So maybe people are buying more trade paperbacks, which that shows me that you're a normie. And I'm not saying that to insult you. I'm saying that nobody sits up there and waits for American trade paperbacks, like collectors, people. No, most of your units are going to be sold in terms of the floppies. It's not to say that there won't be trade paperbacks or there won't be graphic novels that will sell. It's to say that to act like that will represent a significant part of the American market is being disingenuous. And I'm going to show you that. You remember I covered this story. April 2021, for the first time, according to their own data, if I'm not mistaken, this is, again, going to the ICV2. These are the people that helped with the report. I'm not pulling this data out of my behind, okay? Here we go. For the first time, all the top 20 in terms of what was sold were all manga. Every single one of them, number 1 through 20. That was the first time that had happened in April of 2021. And they mentioned that some of these are not a one-hit wonder. You saw that there were other ones that would pop up that were in the top 20 or whatever. But for the American, be it the big two or even the booms and the images, not now one of them represented April of 2021. Now one of them. They were all mangas. Every single one. Putting that into perspective, the next month it happened, and it basically happened all throughout the rest of the year. So in May and through May of 2021, I think in one of the months you had a couple that crept up in there. But as you can see right here, they're all mangas. For the second month in a row, it's all manga in the top 20 adult graphic novels in the book channel. First time that it happened, and then it just kept happening, okay? To put that into perspective here, when you look at the top 300 graphic novels from the same source in 2016, so what's that, like 7 years ago or so, 6 years ago, whatever it is, or suck at math, you can see here, they're, for the most part, all American comics. I believe One Punch is it. Yeah, the 22nd one was One Punch, right? So what this is signifying that manga in America, and with these North American stores, more specifically in America, grew like crazy. And it even says in the original report for 2021 that manga grew at an unprecedented level. Unprecedented. As you can see, going back here, as you can see, this was in 2016. In comparison, the reason why I brought up 2016 is because I'm going to bring it back up here in a little bit. Now, there's some more things that, of course, I want to talk about before I make my more overarching point. Looking at the 2021 comic sales, okay? Going back to this, you see that these are the estimated units here, okay? Now, if I'm not mistaken, yes, the graphic novels are here. All right. So just to put this into perspective, guys, Comic-Con, this is from Comic-Con. This is an ICV2. Comic-Con, you see the estimated units of the top selling graphic novel is only at 24,000. Remember how many mangas got pushed? I showed y'all with the Crunchyroll link. Comparatively, those are in the millions. The top one here is only 24,000 units. Those are graphic novels. This is why I keep saying, for those of people that are like, well, people aren't buying floppies or singles anymore. They're more so gravitating towards the trade paperback. That is verifiably false. Verifiably false. As you can see, according to their own numbers of last year, the top 2021 graphic novel sales was The Department of Truth by Image, and it was only 24,000 units. Comparatively to the actual comics, you can see it's not even close, right? 480 estimated 80,000 for the number one comic. The market is in the comic book space, period. They haven't released a lot of those units, but you can put two and two together and see that the vast majority of those that they're calling graphic novels are simply mangas. Now, you remember I showed you this, and let me see if I can go back to it right here. This was the one that I showed you here, 2016 to 2021, right? Some people would argue 2015, 2016 was really when a lot of their stuff in the comic book space, definitely with some of this weird material, started to kind of happen. You had all different Marvel and all that stuff, Jane Foster's store, all that was like 2015 going to 2016. And you had this weird stuff going on. I want you to keep that in mind because we're going to reference these 2021 numbers. You see 480,000, the lowest number on the top. I forget how hard does it go, 500 or 300? It's 500, okay? The lowest one in terms of sales, no, it's even more than that. So they go all the way basically to 600. And that's Children of Adam with 27,000. And this was 2021. To put that into perspective, here's 2016, okay? Top selling comic, it isn't 480,000, but it's 420,000. And you can see, comparatively speaking, and I'll go all the way back up, the numbers actually are worse. When you look at the top selling comics outside of King Spawn, which did really well, then you go after that, like Civil War II, issue 1, 391. Number 2 is 341 in 2021. So if you go to let's say the 100th rank comic, right? The 100th rank comic in a 2016 was Batman, All-Star Batman, which almost sold 100,000. It was 99,000. Number 100 is 73,000. In terms of units, they're doing worse. We'll keep going. Let's pull a random number. Let's go 239. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, sold 52,000. And that was in 2021. Let's see what the 238th or 39th ranked book sold. Here, 239, 71,000. They were selling better in 2016. Yet there's $20 more million accounted for. So, and they're saying even in comparison to 2016, they're doing better. What that doesn't take into account is the fact the books simply cost more. That is so easily explainable. You see all of these basically $3 books that you see represented in the 2016 price, right? You see, yeah, there's some $4, $5, but there's a lot of $2.99 books. In 2021, there's not that many of them. Almost a lot of them were basically all eliminated. By the big two, they certainly were eliminated. There's a couple through some of the other like of the big, like you got Marvel, DC, and then you got some of like the Booms and the Images. I believe maybe a couple of Image comics were $2.99, but the vast majority of them are all at least the price increased. And you remember that. Going to this data right here, as reported, DC Comics, as of March 2021, raising their prices on Batman and all other comics. So you're not selling more in units. It's not showing like interest. You're selling more in money, maybe, but the books cost more. What were you expecting? As I just showed you the unit sales in comparison to what they were 6 years ago. There were more units being sold for the top selling books. In 2016, according to their own data, so if there's a mess up in the data or there's a change, that's on them to address. I'm just going by the data that they presented. In 2016, In 2016, the books cost less. That more than likely shows, and because of the unit sales, they're actually worse in 2021 in comparison to 2016. That's just what it is. So you can sit up here and be mad at me all day long, but the data is what the data is. Mangas grew astronomically over the course of the last years. It doesn't matter if you want to say it's a manga v. American comic. What your position on that is wholly irrelevant to what the data shows. So when they say, yeah, compared to last year, which is the pandemic year, government everything was down, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Yeah, of course it's going to go up from 2020. Everything goes up from 2020. But when you look at it, at minimum, you would have to consider that it was stagnant. But if you actually look at the unit numbers, it's worse. And the graphic novels, like I said, in terms of their units, even if there is a slight uptick, even if you did account for a slight uptick, it doesn't it's not like more people are buying those, therefore not buying the floppies or the single issues anymore. No, it's just that big number that you're looking at here. It's just mangas. That's it. It's just mangas. These are mangas. So be mad at me all you want. Be upset that we addressed this. But don't try to straw man my argument because you want to listen. This isn't about what narrative it is that I'm trying to perpetuate. I am just showing you what the data showed. I remember covering that. That's how I was able to stumble across the article again, because I did a video on it and I kept my receipt. When in 2021, there was zero. So you take all that into consideration, all the information that I just gave you, the fact that the top 20 graphic novels going into April, May, and so forth, almost all of them were mangas. They were not American comic books. They were not graphic novels that were American comic book. That's not what they were. They were mangas. Manga is to blame for this major uptick that it is that you see, which is why the comics, again, at best you'd say this is stagnant, but you're only talking about a couple, like 20 million maybe. I think it was like 405 million here and like 220 or something million in 2021. But that uptick, which isn't even significant, like this jump here with the graphic novels, it's not even a significant uptick, but that uptick can easily be represented by the fact that, well, the books cost more. So I think if you're going to gauge interest and you're going to be honest, no matter where you're at on this argument, you'd have to look at the unit sales. And I showed you the unit sales according to the people that compiled the data. The same company, the same joint effort that compiled the data said it shows that there was more units being sold with the top books than there were in 2016. Excuse me, in 2016, they were sold more than what they were in 2021. Period. So you can sit up here and lie. You can try to, they say I'm spinning. I'm not spinning anything. I'm just showing you the data. There's no spin to be made here. And it's funny. And I would say this, I'm going to go out on this note. I've learned so much in starting my own comic book company. And it's funny how these guys get so protective of the corporate structure of comics, right? The big two, and even, again, the images and all those. And they're so protective of it. The comic pros lie to themselves. Meanwhile, at the other side of their mouth, they know they're screwed over. They know they're broke. They know that they're going to be forced to eat their cat's food. They know that they're in bad shape, getting screwed over. I am paying your artist. Why am I paying more than what DC and Marvel pays for their artists per page? You're getting screwed over by a mega corporation, and because you're rather so mad at folks like myself and so many other people that are in our space that are maybe creating independent comics or talking about the industry for what it is, you're coming at us while going to bat for an industry that is screwing you over. Your royalty deal sucks. You don't, that's even if you get those. Sucks. You're getting screwed over. But hey, it's Marvel. Hey, it's DC. Meanwhile, the guy who started with no loans is paying your Hey, where you think I got these guys from? I am paying Marvel and DC's artists better than what they pay them. And you mad at me? Why? You mad at the other people that are creative in this space? You mad at the other people that have gone and maybe detached themselves from the mainstream? You're mad at all of us. You're mad at the people that are involved in Comicsgate. You're mad at the people that are, commentating on this stuff. You're mad at everybody else. And you going to bat for a mega corporation that is screwing you over and you're so protective of it. I don't know. Maybe it's because a lot of these guys are talentless hacks that wouldn't otherwise have jobs unless it was coming from these big guys, because they certainly couldn't do it on their own. We see what happened. A lot of them fall on their face when they try to do independent work because nobody's interested. They have to tie it to a mega corporation. But don't be mad at us. Don't be mad at us. Don't say we're trying to spin the numbers. No, you're trying to spin them. You're trying to do a victory lap while trying to accept credit for something that is coming from the other side of the planet. And that's just what the data shows. So you can be mad at me at presenting it. Go by all means. You can call me all the isms and the phobes and all that. It will not change what the data actually says. I'm not the one coping here. You're coping. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.